Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Philadelphia Fusion preview. So the Philadelphia Fusion, another one of those teams that's been up and down in terms of the Overwatch League in the past 2 years. In 2018, or the inaugural season, the Philadelphia Fusion finished 6th, just squeaking into those overall playoffs. But boy would they put on a show during those playoffs where they would get to the final against London Spitfire. But London Spitfire were on a roll during those playoffs and ultimately saw the Philadelphia Fusion off. Philadelphia Fusion sealing a second place finish in those playoffs in the end. But that was no mean feat for a team that was not expected to do that well during the inaugural season. The question is, could they then take this into the 2019 season and build on it? Well, no. Philadelphia Fusion didn't do as well in 2019 as they did in the inaugural season, finishing 10th in the league, slap bang in the middle, and going into the play-ins, and then they didn't get through the play-ins, losing out to the Shanghai Dragons in the play-ins, who would go on to lose to the London Spitfire in the final of the play-ins. But the Philadelphia Fusion certainly had work to do to try and catch up to the rest of the league after perhaps what you would seem as a poor 2019 compared to their inaugural season push. So, we move into 2020 then, and there have been a lot of changes at the Philadelphia Fusion. Some good, some, well, we'll make our own judgments on that, won't we? But let's look at the coaching lineup for the Philadelphia Fusion then, and that has been seeing some pretty big changes once more, with the two co-head coaches, Hayes and Named Hui, going out in October. Most importantly, Heidi, the chef, leaving on the 31st of October as well, and then they also changed the way the kind of the Fusion worked in terms of their streamers as well, and their director of Overwatch Operations, with Kirby, their director of Overwatch Operations, leaving in September, and then Kabaji and Emong ending their affiliation with the Philadelphia Fusion as well. So this opened up some opportunities for the Philadelphia Fusion to change some things, and that they did. They have a new head coach, KDG. KDG comes in from the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty did okay last season, certainly better than the Philadelphia Fusion did, and they definitely were making progress, so I think this is a decent pickup, but I don't think it's a massive pickup for the Philadelphia Fusion by any means. Then we have Moby Dick. Moby Dick comes in from the Toronto Defiant, and previously before that O2 Blast. He didn't have a massively long time at the Toronto Defiant. Toronto Defiant weren't brilliant last year, especially, towards the end of the year, they weren't anything amazing. This is when Moby Dick was there. But O2 Blast certainly were good when Moby Dick was there, so it's a coach that has some stuff to prove at the Philadelphia Fusion this year. And lastly, we have Saita. Saita is possibly one of the most experienced, if not the most experienced coaches in the Overwatch League. He is from Finland and he's been in the Overwatch scene for a very long time. You can trace Saita back to the days of World of Warcraft, where he actually was a leader of one of the best guilds in World of Warcraft, Paragon. So he's had time coaching Ninjas in Pyjamas, Rest in Pyjamas, Team Giganti when they were winning before the Overwatch League started, and then he went to the Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal, yes, didn't have a massive season last season, but they didn't have the players either. And now he's at the Philadelphia Fusion as an analyst. Yes, as an analyst, and that is what Saita does very well. So I think he will be a very good addition to this lineup for the Philadelphia Fusion. He's very good at analysing other people's play, tournament play and stuff like that. It's always what he's been known for, so I think that's a really good pickup for the Philadelphia Fusion. But without further ado, let's get on to their lineup, their roster for this season. So, they have let go of a few players. Obviously, we've talked about a few of these before. So, Neptuno, he's now with the Guangzhou Charge. We talked about him about a week ago. Then there's Elk, the two-way player. He is no longer with them. He's now with HU Storm. Kib is no longer with them. He's unassigned. And Snillo, the two-way DPS player from Sweden, is now no longer with them. He is unassigned as well. This has opened up some spots for the Philadelphia Fusion. So they retained Carpe, Poco, Sado, Boombox, and EQO. I don't think a lot of people are surprised by this. Boombox, really good flex support. Sado, I still think there's a lot of potential in Sado as a tank player. Poco, we all know about Poco. And Carpe, I always have a sticking point on Carpe. So he's got a season of proving himself, I think, because he wasn't living up to what he was in the inaugural season last season. Because I think, very much like Birdwing at the London Spitfire, the meta just doesn't suit Carpe right now. He doesn't play the McCree, the Widow, that Carpe is well known for. He's been forced onto things like the Reaper, which is not Carpe's forte in all respects. EQO, though, he does very good in every meta, so I think EQO will be just fine for the Philadelphia Fusion. But they have added to their roster because pretty much everyone has in this off-season, and if they haven't, what are you doing? Anyway, first up we have Ivy, the DPS player from Toronto Defiant. He will be playing for the Philadelphia Fusion this year. He will be, you know, I would imagine a backup. I can't imagine him starting over Carpe or EQO, and one of the other DPS players we're going to talk about in a minute. But I think he's a very good squad depth signing for the Philadelphia Fusion, and possibly a player that we are yet to see more from in terms of their quality. I think he is potentially a very good player. I just don't think we got to see the best of him at the Toronto Defiant last season. Then we have one of the surprise signings of the window, actually, and one I really didn't expect. This is Fury, the off-tank from the London Spitfire. Now, Fury is regarded as one of the best off-tanks in the Overwatch League. He is extremely good on the D.Va. He actually showed us a pretty good Orisa during the playoffs for London Spitfire last season, even though the London Spitfire didn't do very well. But Fury was one of the staple players for London Spitfire during their inaugural season win, alongside Prophet and Jester and the rest of them. Fury is a very, very good off-tank, and is, as I said just now, regarded as one of the best. So this is a really good pickup for the Philadelphia Fusion, but it does go at loggerheads with Poco. So I think it's a puzzling pickup in some respects as well. What this means for Poco's future, I don't know. One of these players, and they're both very good off-tanks, either Fury or Poco, is going to have an off-season, if you see what I mean. They're going to have a weird season because they're perhaps going to be playing slight second fiddle to one of the others. And that, in some respects, is a bit harsh on them because they're both players that could have starting places in other teams. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these players ends up leaving the Philadelphia Fusion at some point because they want game time. Unless the Philadelphia Fusion manages very, very well, which of course they could do as well. Then we have Alarm. Alarm is being promoted from the Fusion University, now known as T1 in South Korean contenders. Alarm is an 18-year-old support player playing the Ana, Zenyatta and Lucio. He was part of the Fusion University roster that dominated 2018 North American contenders, where they won every single season, all three of them. And then they won Season 1 of North America East in 2019. And then they won the Atlantic Showdown in 2019 as well. Fusion University were very, very dominant, if you hadn't noticed. But then they went to Korea and they found out, ooh, Korea's a different story. But Alarm was a very, very, very good support player, and I am not surprised that they have made the effort to promote him from their university to their main roster, and I think he's a really good pickup and a really good depth addition for the Philadelphia Fusion in this season, and they needed it, let's be honest. They have lost Neptuno, and they have lost Elk, so they needed some more support players in their lineup, and I honestly think they could do with one more, because they've only signed one extra one alongside this. But, talking about that extra support, it's Funny Astro. Funny Astro, you will know from the Atlanta Reign last year. He was actually a two-way player for the Atlanta Reign with their ATL Academy. ATL Academy were kind of the successors to the Fusion University in North America, because they did very well there. They dominated North America East in Season 2 of 2019. So, yeah, they come second in the gauntlet as well, only to Element Mystic. And they beat Runaway. Very comprehensively beat Runaway, which is something not a lot of teams can say. So Funny Astro was part of that squad, and I think Funny Astro is a really, really good player. And I promise you I'm not biased because he's British. I've always rated Funny Astro highly. He's very well known for his Lucio. He does have very good Mercy in his back pocket as well. I don't know whether he will start. I honestly see the starting supports for the Philadelphia Fusion being Boombox and Alarm, but I would imagine Funny Astro is going to be ready to step in at any point he is asked to. But then, sticking with the British trend, I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, isn't it? The most surprising and controversial pickup of this entire off-season. It's Chipsa, the streamer turned, or used to be pro, but streamer turned back to pro player, Doomfist specialist that is Chipsa. You better not be unlucky. So unlucky. Yeah. So this video was going to be slightly different because we had a nerf go to Doomfist on the PTR a couple of weeks ago that basically destroyed the hero at the pro level. And yeah, I think everyone was staring Philadelphia Fusion and Chipsa in the face and saying, oh dear, what have you done? But that nerf was changed slightly to the point where it's not as apocalyptic for Doomfist at the top level. So Chipsa should be okay. You can guarantee if they're playing Chipsa, you're going to look out for that Doomfist. He does have a decent Mei on him. Don't get me wrong, he's not just a Doomfist one trick. He is well known for his Doomfist, don't get me wrong. But he's not just a Doomfist one trick. He does have a very good Mei. He also has a Genji in his back pocket as well. He's a projectile DPS, as we all know. Will Chipsa be starting for the Philadelphia Fusion? I doubt it. He's definitely going to be a flex player for the Philadelphia Fusion. They're going to flex him in when they need the Doomfist or something that Chipsa's specialist attributes can help out with. I really do think that they were sticking with the Carpe EQO frontline that we've seen so much in 2019. I don't think they will change it up too much because it was working to most extent. Maybe they might take out Carpe at times, because Carpe's Reaper isn't quite up to scratch if someone else has been working on it. But Carpe does have to look out because he's got some competition coming up through the ranks. Yes, there is one last signing to talk about, but he is currently ineligible for the Philadelphia Fusion and will be until March the 25th when he turns 18. This is Hisu, the projectile and hit scan DPS player coming in from Runaway. Hisu is very good. Hisu has been very good for Runaway in Korean contenders for a very long time. He's been with Runaway for quite a while, going back to 2018, and he was with Element Mystic before that, who were very good as well. Hisu is a very good DPS player, and has the capability of being the best DPS player on this Philadelphia Fusion roster. And if I was Carpe, I would be looking over my shoulder slightly, because I think Hisu is a much better all-rounded DPS player than Carpe is. He has the Widow, the McCree, he's got a very good Ashe, he's got a good Reaper as well. So I think Hisu may be a long-term replacement for Carpe, and I think this is perhaps a good thing for Philadelphia Fusion to do. I think they relied too heavily on Carpe, and I think Carpe is sometimes too inconsistent. So I think Hisu will solve this problem once he comes of age in March. And it is a very good pickup for the Philadelphia Fusion. Very, very good. I think this is their best pickup of perhaps the entire off-season, apart from perhaps Fury. Although Fury, the meta doesn't really prefer Fury right now, so it'll be interesting to see where he falls. But that does round it off for the new signings for the Philadelphia Fusion. Very heavy on the DPS, but I think there are some good signings here with the likes of Fury, the Alarm, Funny Astro, and Hisu. I think there are some really good pickups here for the Philadelphia Fusion, so I am interested to see how they do. I don't think they will be up with the big teams, but I think this does put them in a better position than they were in last year, without a doubt. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this tank line though. It'll be interesting to see if they can get the best out of Sado like they couldn't last year, and what they will do in terms of the off-tank, whether they will play Poco, or whether they will play Fury, or whether they will be swapped at intervals, because I think it's going to be hard to keep those two happy. They are two very, very good off-tank players, and both could be playing in the first teams of a lot of teams in the league, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do there. Perhaps a destination for Poco might be Paris Eternal, but there isn't an open slot there right now, so yeah, it'll be interesting. Philadelphia Fusion, though, will kick us off in Week 2, where they will host their Battle of Brotherly Love in Philadelphia, at the Met, Philadelphia, where they will play the Washington Justice and the Florida Mayhem. Two teams that were pretty much propping up the league last season, but two teams that could be significantly improved coming into 2020, so it'll be very interesting to see where Philadelphia Fusion go when they match up against those two teams. Then they have the difficult prospect of taking on the New York Excelsior, which will be a very big teller for this Philadelphia Fusion side in Week 3, and then they will also take on the Toronto Defiance in Week 3, which, yeah, that could be surprisingly evenly matched. Looking at Toronto Defiance DPS right now, who are looking pretty good. And then they have in Week 4 Boston Uprising, which, every time I mention the Boston Uprising, we don't mention anything good. So Philadelphia Fusion, if you don't win that game, questions, many questions. Although Boston, you never know, might surprise us. But I'm going to leave it here for the Philadelphia Fusion. Next up, we will be looking at our current champions, San Francisco Shock. there actually won't be much to talk about, because who can change the perfect team? What changes would you make to the team that dominated, especially the second half of last season? Interesting. Probably quite a short one. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.